So the way I interpret it, and I think the way everyone thinks about the Science Fellows program, is it's a program that's designed to get teachers into science labs or technology labs where we are interacting with scientists, working with scientists, is doing sort of what you consider real science research. And the idea is to allow us to bring that back into our classroom. So the idea is if we can do real research in the lab, we can better teach and prepare our students to become researchers in the future. So I was at CNSE, the College of Nanoscience and Engineering, working on plasmonic fields of gold nanoparticles with Dr. Michael Carpenter. And there we looked at basically using these gold nanoparticles to sense the types of gases in a high temperature combustion type environment to ideally make or sense the combustion process in a turbine.
I was placed on a team that's primarily making silicone plastics. What I did was answer questions for customers. They had some problems from the customers that they needed answering. Basically, they had a plastic that wasn't performing the way that they hoped it would. It turned out that the company that was molding the plastic was molding it at a higher temperature than Momentive had recommended. So we were trying to figure out when they molded that plastic at a higher temperature why they were getting those different properties.
I think the program helped give me a better sense of inquiry and practice and how scientists really go through the whole process of research question to finished device. I got a better idea of how that works, so I can better bring into my classroom inquiry practices, less cookbook type labs where my students are following a set of instructions more versus what I call one sentence labs. So I give them a sentence and they have to go design their lab and work through that process.
Well, there's a lot that I can bring back in with plastics in terms of polymer chemistry when we do organic chemistry. There's also a lot I can bring in terms of material science into my nanotechnology course. But there's a great deal that's not content-based that I can bring back into the course. A lot of how you design and solve a problem. I think I've been able to make my course a lot more applicable to how you really solve problems in industry, having that experience.
I see more confidence in my students. I think going through the program is giving me a better idea of how to scaffold the process with them, where they need to start and where they need to be at the end. Whereas I think when I first started doing lessons like that, it was like, figure it out. And a lot of the kids were like, oh, I can't do that. And so I think seeing the process in the labs allowed me to concentrate on what I can help them more with and where I can let them sort of flounder a little bit.
I think it really increases their engagement because I think I'm doing a better job molding it as a real problem, not just this kind of classroom problem. And that really makes them feel like they're solving something and they're more invested in the problem. And then they're getting the skills that they need along the way.
The research we did is we did experiments for over 24 hours, taking absorption spectrums every 20 seconds. Now, I'm not going to find the peak of those absorption spectrums by hand for 6,000 different files. I need to really be able to concentrate or spend my time appropriately so I can get all of that data and analyze it without doing 6,000 things by hand if I can have a computer do it. So the biggest takeaway I took was how important that is to sciences and understanding at least basic structures of code. I wouldn't have been successful if I didn't have that background at my placement.
I think the thing that struck me most was that I really need to give the kids much more opportunity to fail. I think we structure things a little too carefully to make sure they get the right answer. And that's just not the way it works when you're doing research or when you're in industry. So I have built in a lot more opportunities when I'm doing inquiry design for them to not just get the wrong answer, but go with the wrong answer and see where that takes them so that they can figure out why that answer isn't right. I think it was a really great experience. I think it's really important beyond what we learn to bring back to the classroom. It's very important to get ourselves in active, real science that's going on, research, industry, because it re-excites us about what we do. Every time I do something like this program or any kind of research experience over the summer, I always come back to school much more excited about what I do.
I really enjoyed the time in the lab again. When I was in college, I did a lot of education research on physics. I did a lot of physics education research, which I'm not going to say isn't real science, but it wasn't sort of the science of here I'm playing with nanoparticles or working with superconductors. So I think it gave me another chance to really experience the scientific process, which as a science teacher, that's what you live for.